The Metaverse is emerging as the next big technology platform and promises to be the next frontier for human experiences on the internet. Into the Metaverse covers companies, technologies, and trends that are bringing these promises to life. Join creator and host Jonathan Ross Friedman, founder and CEO of Super Social, as he interviews the brilliant minds that are building, shaping, and investing in the Metaverse.
Welcome to episode 21 of Into the Metaverse, where we help make sense of the Metaverse through deep interviews with the brilliant minds who build, create for, and invest in the Metaverse. I'm Jan, and joining me today is Tami Bhaumik, Vice President of Civility and Partnership at Roblox, where she spearheads the platform's digital civility initiative. To establish healthy and safe communities, Tami is focused on providing kids, teens, parents, and caregivers with skills needed to create positive online experiences in partnership with leading global safety and industry organizations. With over 25 years of experience, she has successfully fostered supportive communities in a variety of industries through leading the growth of multiple Silicon Valley startups and is an active member at leading safety institutions. Tami, civility and safety is such an important aspect to discuss, and I'm delighted to welcome you into the Metaverse.
Oh, Jan, thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to share really what my heart passion is. And so thanks for allowing me to be here today.
Amazing. And so before we dig in, as always, everything discussed on the podcast is not a financial advice. Content is strictly educational and hopefully highly entertaining. So, Tami, let's jump in. As we continue to build an evolving consensus around the Metaverse, what it is not. And so our favorite first question with every guest that comes to the podcast is, what is the Metaverse in your mind? And perhaps not less important, what it is not.
Well, I'm going to start out by saying that we're in the very beginning stages of building, if we want to call it the Metaverse, call it the Metaverse. But how we look at it is really a virtual world where people can come together and share ideas and connect with one another and express their imagination to be able to create. So we look at it as a platform for people to come together, quite frankly. And so I think that many people talk about the Metaverse. It is really quite the catchphrase right now. And the one point that I really want to clarify is the Metaverse is not VR. VR is simply a gateway. It's a channel to get onto this, into the Metaverse, but it is not the Metaverse. So I wanted to make that point of clarification. How we look at the Metaverse here at Roblox is basically made up of several key tenets, which is being able to have the ability to have self-identity, to be able to express yourself in who you are and perhaps who you aspire to be, a working economy, a variety of experiences, which at Roblox is not a problem for us, given that our platform is 100% user-generated content. We always have always fresh content and experiences ready to explore. The ability to have a social network where you could invite your friends and connect with others is such an incredible opportunity. And then from a tech side, making sure that you have beautiful, immersive experiences that are truly engaging. Last but not least, in my area, my special area is safety and civility. You cannot possibly express yourself confidently if you don't feel safe. So that's a core tenet of the Roblox platform.
Tami, this is such a great point that you actually started from what the Metaverse is not, because this is something we've been talking frequently on the podcast and also with my own team, that the Metaverse is not a device. And I think what happened with the positive outcome of so many companies, including yourself and Meta, changing their name from Facebook to Meta, has been kind of, in a way, turning the global light on the Metaverse and its emergence. The other thing that happened is that when a $800 billion gorilla changes its name to Meta and now says it's a Metaverse company, and really most of their investment is on virtual reality experiences and headsets, it creates a perception that for many people who are not in the details, that this is the Metaverse. And so I think it's worth to clarify once again, and it's great to have someone from Roblox as a spokesperson to reiterate that to our audience, that the metaverse is not a device. It's likely device agnostic. And I like to joke and say, when people have autonomous Teslas, what are they going to do in the autonomous Tesla? Probably access the metaverse from any device.
Absolutely. You know, and the way that we look at it, aside from how other companies might look at what they're building, we are absolutely focused on what we're building. And we believe that this metaverse, this virtual world, needs to be accessible from all devices, from all platforms. And so we need to make sure that everybody, regardless of socioeconomic status, is able to access it. So it's a really, really important point, and really how we look at the metaverse.
So fantastic, Tami. So now that we got your point of view on that, I'd love to dig a bit deeper into your core work, which I know you're so passionate about. So could you share with our listeners really what is included in your role as VP Civility and Partnerships at Roblox? And more broadly, how does Roblox pursue that mission of building a safe metaverse?
So, you know, Roblox has been around for a long time. We started in 2006, and safety and civility have always been, from day one, the foundational grounding. You know, our CEO, Dave Baszucki, he always has believed that in order for this platform to be successful, safety was paramount. Because the company started out attracting a younger audience, we have never, ever been in a position like some of the other social media companies out there about taking a look and focusing on 13 plus only. We know that we have had younger children on our platform. Therefore, we've always been so thoughtful about how we approach safety, how we approach privacy. So we actually don't have a lot of the problems that some of the other companies have out there in regards to collection of data, things like that. So we, from the very, very beginning, we have prioritized this. About 4 years ago, I started the Civility Initiative on Roblox, mainly because after talking to so many parents out there, so many kids, I realized that these parents didn't know what Roblox was, didn't know that we had account restrictions, parental controls, etc. And they really didn't know what their kids were doing. And it made us realize not only do we have a responsibility, we have an opportunity to educate an entirely new generation and help to educate those parents and caregivers and educators on how to guide this next generation to truly be confident users of the internet, not just Roblox, but confident users of the internet, to be able to be in the driver's seat, to be able to create positive experiences for themselves. We know that, and you talked about it a little bit before, Jan, that we know that there are always going to be bad actors. There's always going to be bad content uploaded onto the internet. We need to make sure that when these things happen and when this younger generation sees it, instead of being taken back, instead of being scared by it, instead of being shaken, wouldn't it be amazing to have this next generation know how to use the tools, know how to report it, creating technology, quite frankly, that prohibits bad content from coming on, even perhaps before a young person interacts with it. I'm very optimistic about our future world because I do believe that our technology is incredibly innovative, and we can create a world with Web3 that allows for a much more civil, much safer place than in some aspects, and even in the real world.
I wrote a piece a few months ago that I called it The Real and the Unreal, because I think one aspect of building a safe, civil metaverse is also remembering that we're not talking about we're not dreaming or aspiring to have a metaverse that is any resemblance to the 2049 sort of dystopian world that we're imagining in Ready Player One, the book, or the movie. Yeah. Right? We're talking about a world that we're very much wanting it to be connected to a real life, to IRL. And also it is connected. It's not it cannot be separate. And so it is obvious that the virtual world and the identities we have through these avatars that are immersed in these fantastic virtual experiences are going to shape who we are as people. And as there are so many young people on the platform, on Roblox, that are spending hours every day, weeks and days every year, it is ever more important that we, I believe, not only give them a place to enjoy with their friend in a way that is safe, but also how do we, and this is maybe also a question, which is how do we, both from technology and from processes and different initiative, which I know you guys are doing all of that, how can we create guidelines and principles and environments where the users themselves can become essentially the champions of a safer metaverse? So it's not only falling to the responsibility of the platform or the technology enabler, which I'm not dismissing the crucial role that company like Roblox plays in shaping what the platform is. Obviously, you are the first and foremost important player in that kind of among the different stakeholders. But how do you think at Roblox internally about how you make the users, the audience, and the adjacent stakeholders, like parents, for example, part of really shaping that safe metaverse?
Yeah, I have so many thoughts about this. It is an enormous opportunity ahead of us. When you talk about civility and educating all of these different generations, it really falls back to, I think the responsibility is really three legs of a stool. It's really industry, it's governments and the policies that we enact. And then the third, having parents and caregivers and educators as part of that. Because with one alone is not going to be successful. It requires the participation of all three entities. We want to make sure that one of the civility initiatives is about research. We're partnered with some of the best and the brightest in the field in terms of research, academia, the medical profession. We have psychologists, therapists on board that continually are doing research to provide evidence-based data that we can then take internally to help guide our roadmaps, help to guide policy creation. So it's an ongoing opportunity. I think that we learned a lot from Web 1 and Web 2. And I think that, hopefully the lessons that we learned will help us to be able to provide this next iteration of the internet and this metaverse that is more optimistic, more productive. I think that, again, we would never, and I'm going to say this from Roblox, we would never want anyone to spend all of their time on Roblox. We look at it, quite honestly, as a complement to real life. And we hear the stories time and time again, how, especially during the pandemic, where it was a lifeline for families and friends to be able to connect with one another, to feel a part of one another's lives. And optimistically, I look at the opportunity that Roblox provides to family and friends as just that. It may be now experiences and games where they can play together. But like I always said, the most engaging conversations that I had with my two daughters was when I was driving them somewhere in a car, right? And they would just start to talk. When you're playing on Roblox as a parent with your kids, it's the same thing. It's amazing what you learn as a parent when you're playing with your kids. So I think there's tremendous opportunity. I think the future is going to hold, areas where education will be hosted there, where work will be hosted there. It's not just going to be a gaming environment.
Well, as a side note, I have noticed today a company joining about workspaces to Roblox. So it's going to be interesting. I already sent it to my team. Let's keep an eye on that because I feel like a new category of experiences is slowly emerging. But back to the point, I've personally been, and we're going to jump in a second to your super diverse background and how it fits into kind of your next chapter at Roblox. But as an entrepreneur and company builder, I've been building for young people for the past decade. And I remember when we were very much at the beginning of building the Kano computer, I got asked a lot by parents, oh, we're really trying to limit screen time for kids. And initially I was a bit empathetic on, yeah, you're right. Like, that is a lot of screen time that kids have. But then as years went by and I've grown with the belief that looking at technology in a bit more deterministic way. And what I mean by that, it is happening. If we want it or not, we are going to be surrounded, not necessarily with screen, but with internet-enabled interfaces, where we're going to access the internet every single passable place. It's going to be on our homes' windows. It's going to be in our cars' dashboards. It's going to be, of course, in our mobile phone and other form factors that have already been around us, like PC, game console, later on VR, AR glasses, et cetera, et cetera. And so to me, it sounds more like less of how do we limit screen time, which later on is going to be how do we limit Roblox time, and then it's going to be how do we limit Metaverse time. To me, is what happens in this time, and how can we foster a meaningful metaverse where when people are immersed in these worlds, there is something of meaning that really contributes to their human consciousness, to their human experience. And I know these are a lot of big fancy words, but these are words that are used a lot also within the Roblox company. And so when we think of a meaningful metaverse, how do you think that translate into a platform where obviously we're starting to gradually see a multi-generational activity? And what I mean by that, and again, I'll take Super Social as an example. We have team members who are Gen X, team members who are millennials, team members who are Gen Z, and very soon, likely when they come of age, Gen Alpha, right? And so how do you build the foundations of a platform that is, although historically was very much with a younger core audience, but we're already seeing with the recent numbers from previous quarter, it's really growing up, it's really aging up. And I know that Roblox is not going to want to give up on any audience because you want to be a metaverse platform for everyone. How do you bridge that gap between the different cultures, the different geographies, the different ages in really creating, nurturing, and sustaining a safe, meaningful network or virtual world?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I go back to the first thing that popped in my head when you were talking was quantity versus quality, right? And so it's one of the myths that, quite frankly, my team tries to bust all the time. And again, it goes back to education and self-awareness and, helping parents to understand that they need to be self-aware that, hey, screen time is not going away for their kids. In fact, screen time it's going to become more immersive. So instead of looking at it as, just again, my kid's always on the screens, there are positive aspects to what they're doing on the screen, right? Now, again, I want to go back and say, I would never, ever say, hey, we want your kid on Roblox 24/7. We would never recommend that. But the way that I look at it is it's very different as me as a parent and, my kids. When I sit there and I go, hey, go outside and play with your friends, they look at me and they go, what are you talking about? I am playing with my friends. And so the context nowadays of the way that young people interact, it's really that education needs to trickle up to adults to help them understand that it's not necessarily a waste of time, right? They're connecting with people, they're forming relationships, they're forming friendships, they're learning from others. In your case, and you can really talk about this firsthand, they're learning skills, they're learning how to program, they're learning how to run companies, they're learning how to manage people if they're developers. Right? There are some really concrete skills that are being built in this new world. And instead of being afraid of it and not used to it, instead of being afraid of it, let's embrace it and create self-awareness around usage, because what's right for me may not be right for you, right? So to have X number of hours or X number of minutes where you can be on it, it's not right for us to dictate, or any industry to dictate how much time that might be. It's up to the families to decide what is appropriate.
And, you know, it's interesting. One of the points you've mentioned around the skills it gives players who could potentially become developers. One of the things that I think are unspoken about for some reason, and probably also overlooked, is the fact that Roblox potentially is the largest learn to code platform in the world, right? And because it teaches kids to code, I just spoke an hour ago with someone who aspires potentially to join Super Social as a developer, and he told me, I learned to code on Roblox. And I think the other piece is, once they learn to code, what if the next step is to learn to start businesses, which is also happening and potentially could evolve and happen at a very large scale. And again, that brings me back to my early days with quantum computing, where I believe that kids can build future businesses. They may not do it now when they're 13. And if you subscribe to the same excitement that I have every time I remember a quote from a learning scientist called Alison Gopnik, who said, children are the R&D department of the human species. And you look at what kids do on Roblox and what they want to continue and do, it is really remarkable to see the evolution of the platform. And that brings me to another point, which I'm curious about your point of view. Obviously, there is a growing adoption of the metaverse as a whole, and more specifically the Roblox platform, by brands. And brands, some of them, especially ones more on the high end or large brands or luxury brands or prestige, they all have very important principles of how they engage with communities. How do you think that, or what role does building or enabling a safe civil metaverse, what role do you think that aspiration can play in continuing to become a place of high relevancy to a growing number of brands who want to establish their persistent presence in years to come?
Yeah, great question. I think I'm also going to touch back on a previous question,
Please.
Which leads into this topic as well, is how do we plan on aging up, and what are the opportunities to, as a lot of our users have also aged up with the platform, how do we continue to make sure that we're a platform for all ages, right? From kids all the way out through grandparents, right? And everything in between. And that's really our goal. It's not only age, but it's also global. It's being respectful of different cultures, et cetera, and making sure that we're relevant on that stage. I think that so I've been at Roblox for 6 years now. So I've had the luxury of being able to meet a lot of the developers, to really see the growth in action, so to speak. I know a lot of the younger developers who started on developing on the platform and learning coding and developing skills and learning from other developers when they were 15 or 16, and now they're in their 20s. And they've found success in developing, and their skills have gotten stronger. The experiences that they're creating, or the storylines are deeper. They're using technology, and obviously Roblox has continued to innovate on that front. So the experiences are much more polished and engaging. And then we've also attracted pro developers to the platform, right? So it's providing a complete level of experience from the beginner developer who is just starting out and their experience are maybe a little bit more basic, to pro developers that are creating AAA experiences using our tools that are engaging and amazing and with tremendous storyline depth and everything in between. So, our platform of variety of experiences, I think, speak to all ages on that front. Then skipping over to your last topic about the brands coming on board. And again, we're learning just as they are, quite frankly, right? We've always been a platform where we're not picking horses, right? It's, as Dave says, he loves all of his children. So when it comes to the branded experiences, it's about being able to provide a platform that is more of a self-serve model, where these brands are coming in, they're creating their own experiences, hiring devs to be able to create these experiences. And quite honestly, we're learning from them. We have had such amazing brands come onto our platform, such as Gucci, Vans, Alo Yoga. Alo Yoga was really near and dear to my heart because it's part of the Civility initiative. We're really trying to teach self-awareness. They created an experience around meditation. I think they launched the experience, in February of this year. They've had 40 million people come into their experience and meditate. The feedback that we've received from our community on it, quote unquote, I've never meditated before. I never knew the power. My parents are fighting all the time. I come into the Alo Yoga experience, I meditate, and it's a way for me to escape and find peace and calmness. Wow. That is so innovative. And it's a way, just an example of what can be done on the metaverse to engage audiences. I don't think that, traditional advertising from brands, we will never take traditional advertising with pop-ups, etc., because it's, number one, it's intrusive. It shouldn't be a part of this metaverse world. I think should be about choice. It should be about organic experiences. If you want to engage with a brand, it's your decision to engage with the brand, right? And, I look at it as just like if you go to a mall, right? If you choose to go into a store or a Nike store or an Abercrombie store, that's your choice, right? And you could engage in that experience. So I think the opportunity for the metaverse to replicate real life opportunities in a way that's not annoying or invasive, the opportunity is really awesome.
I fully agree. The opportunities are amazing. And obviously, I think it goes across some of the things we talked about, identity, expression. I'm just going to give a kind of a shout out to what we've done also at Super Social with NAR Scholar Quest on really kind of taking self-expression to the next level in terms of how, young women express themselves through makeup that comes to life in a different way, in a more fantastical way as a virtual experience. And I think the Alo Yoga is a great example. I have to say, I was a bit skeptic. Wait, people are literally going to come in and suddenly yoga inside Roblox. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. But alongside the opportunities, what are some of the challenges that you at Roblox have heard from brands when they think about building ever more expansive virtual worlds based on their brands on Roblox, right? What are some of their concerns, some of the things that they've outlined that have actually been feeding your roadmap of different initiatives around safety and civility?
Well, I think that, again, this is this is a whole new world, right? So brands, like I said, we're learning along with the brands and really listening to some of the frustration points, some of the opportunities, and the brands who really, really do wonderful things on the platform really lean into being creative. And I think that the brands that maybe are not, or who struggle, are still wedded to old models of advertising. And I think that, the Alo Yoga experience, the NARS experience, perfect examples. When you step outside the traditional marketing mindset and really go into it as an engagement tool for your users and be as creative as you can be, I think the opportunities are endless. And then you will find success on that front as well.
So I want to switch gears and talk a bit about more around your mission, because you come with a very diverse professional background through multiple marketing leadership roles over the years, including at Roblox, which is what you've done for several years before taking on the Civility and Safety initiative. And now that you're responsible for such an important aspect that really is at the core of helping to build a future of their internet that we can all get excited about.
No pressure, yeah. It's all right.
And I speak on behalf of my 13-month-old baby girl. So, I told my wife a few days ago that when I suddenly, unlike before when we had a kid, when I now work on the podcast or when we work on Super Social, I feel like the burden of responsibility is so much greater when I have a little one at home that is going to be coming to the Roblox platform, within the next decade. And so a future of the internet that we not only get excited, but also feel comfortable with, which I think is going to be so important for millions of parents around the world. And so what does it mean for you personally when you work on something like safety and civility and trust within the Roblox platform? And why is it so important that we get it right in the long term?
Well, first of all, I can say it's an honor to be able to be in this position, to do something that's so important and near and dear to my heart. I think that, I've spent over 30 years leading marketing in various organizations, including at Roblox here, and something that I'm very, very proud of, all of the work that has been done with my team. However, the fact that civility and safety are paramount to our success, and the fact that Roblox as an organization across the board recognizes that and prioritizes that as a top priority. Not only do I have the ability to hopefully impact a very innovative, robust roadmap with our product and engineering teams, but then also the fact that I get to work with some of the best and brightest individuals, organizations out there to be able to learn about what's going on in the human brain as kids develop, and hopefully take a lot of the research learnings, balance out a narrative so that proper decisions can be made, realistic decisions can be made from a legislative standpoint. As we're building a product roadmap, any sort of learning that comes back from that research can inform a more robust, safer civil product in the long run. One of our main values is taking the long view. And so we've never done anything just to do it to get quick gain. That is absolutely against our Roblox values. Everything is always done thoughtfully. And if it takes us a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years to get someplace, but it's the right place to go, we'll do that. And so taking a look at going back to that hypothesis that I shared earlier, in 5 to 10 years from now, I believe Roblox will be safer and more civil than in real life. I think that's a real possibility because we are prioritizing it. And we're doing it, we're not looking back and trying to retrofit, right? We're doing it before things even happen. So I'm really excited. I'm really positive about the opportunities we have.
Let's switch gears and talk a bit about the creator and developer ecosystem on the platform. I know we touched upon that. I want to kind of double click. And I'm saying it as both a developer and an employer of amazing talent on the Roblox platform. What are some of the challenges of fostering civility among the creators, right? And we talked about earlier, like making them champions, but what are some of the challenges of how does Roblox foster civility among developers who shape the experiences essentially on the platform? There are millions of them. And what are some of the opportunities for the developer community to shape a metaverse that they can believe in and get excited for the long term?
Yeah. So, I look at it, how I look at it is sort of, you will, decentralized and centralized. So centralized being Roblox has a responsibility to make sure that our safety systems and our policies are foolproof, right? That we make sure that we have, from a platform standpoint, the most innovative safety features that we can have. From a decentralized model, I think that we need to make sure that developers have the ability to create experiences and embrace the cultural intent of what they planned on creating when they had this initial idea for an experience, right? And so the freedom of expression in a civil way is something that's so important, to be able to have the developers have the bandwidth to be able to create that cultural nuance within the experience. That said, I also think that it's important to build awareness with these developers, especially the younger developers. There are a lot of as I mentioned, like yourself, pro developers that are running studios, etc. But some of the younger developers don't necessarily think about the opportunities at hand where they can actually create civility metrics, safety learnings within their experiences to help set forth a really positive, optimistic environment. I think that, again, it's education and awareness.
And, as a CEO of a company that fully operates on the Roblox platform, I get asked quite often about some of these safety challenges, and people get obviously very emotional and take it personal because they have kids, et cetera, et cetera. And now I've been consistently taking the point of view on safety that whatever the safety challenges and civility and trust, there isn't a Roblox issue or a Roblox problem. Roblox is obviously a category leader at the moment. You're at the forefront of a bleeding edge of where the internet is going. So it's very easy to mark Roblox. Having said that, it's more of an internet issue. And quite honestly, we haven't really solved these issues, not in Web 1 and definitely not in Web 2. And here we are moving into the next wave, the next chapter of what the internet is. And so what are some of the mechanism or even a great example or a key initiative that Roblox takes in ensuring that incidents are being addressed, that there is a way and a method of how you tackle things that do not fall in line with your trust and safety and civility principles?
So, we've been at this for a really long time, and we prioritize safety as number one. So we have robust systems in place that we've put into place that we continually innovate on every single day. So we have thousands of human moderators on the front lines. We have machine learning that constantly is taking a look at chat filters. We review every single image, voice file, audio file, video file that's uploaded from developers to make sure that they're not violating any of our guidelines. Any sort of bad actor that comes onto the platform is dealt with swiftly. We remove any content that's reported to us within minutes. So honestly, we have very robust systems in place. We have parental controls. We have safety settings. Part of the problem is that, again, it goes back to this awareness and education opportunity that very few parents actually set those settings, right? We have PIN codes that once the settings are set, the kids can't go back and reset it. We have spending limit controls. We have chat restrictions. So again, depending upon what your family's situation is, you can choose to make sure that the kids can only talk to friends, they can talk to no one, or they can talk to everyone. So there's flexibility there in terms of opportunities for parents to choose what's right for their family. And then we have stringent chat filters across the board. So for those 13 and under, the chat filters are even more stringent. But then again, going back to aging up for 13 plus, we actually just instated, parental verification, where if you have verification that you are 13 and over, you may, and are in good standing, you may get access to voice chat. So we really want to make sure that there is safety and civility thought about from the very beginnings.
And I'm just going to add one thing, which I think is important, is that everything you've just described, in my mind, this is not about kids. This is about enabling a metaverse platform to be safe and trusted and civil, which is going to be relevant not just for young people. It's going to be relevant for all of us, all ages, all around the world, as this next wave of the internet emerges, because it's going to be much more personal. It's going to be much more immersive. And anything that might be dealt with in a 2D application is going to be so much more profound when we are living and embedded inside an internet rather than just looking at that. And so I think there's such a huge story to be told, and the foundations that Roblox are building in enabling that, starting with young people, but in a way that is going to be relevant for many more millions of people from all over the world in all ages. So thank you for that, Tami. And before we conclude, this really terrific and important conversation, I wanted to ask you, what's the one thing you would like the listeners to take away from our conversation?
I think the one important thing is don't be afraid of our metaverse future. Be excited about it and embrace it, because I think what's coming is truly going to be exciting and wonderful. And it's going to help people feel much more connected and accepted. And I think the opportunity for freedom of expression in terms of creativity is endless. So I would say optimism is really the takeaway.
Great message. Tami, thank you so much for being with me today. I really look forward for everyone to hear these insights. And if you liked the episode, please go and share it, write review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform, and stay tuned for more episodes. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks so much, Jan. Have a great day.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Into the Metaverse. We hope you learned a lot and explored new aspects of the metaverse.